Matt Walsh, not necessarily an important figure in any meaningful capacity, calls himself a theocratic fascist, hate him. Awful, awful dude overall, okay? He came out with a documentary, movie, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's just literally just agitprop, okay? It is just agitprop. Agitated propaganda on trans people by being like, what is a woman? What is a woman? It's perfectly crafted and perfectly tailored to ask a super simple question. Like, it is a great way to get like Normans to be like, wow, people can't even answer this like normal question. That's crazy. And then by that like lack of answers, you make your point that like, actually women is very definable. It's by having a pussy and your chromosomes, and it should remain that way, right? Like, that's basically his goal, is to just get you to agree on what a woman is, despite the fact that in the real world, that's not usually how you contextualize what a woman is, and that gender is an expression for the most part. It is a social construct, right? And all the identifiers that we associate with a particular gender are completely culturally built. And I don't normally have like a significant problem with that. Sorry to the MBs. I don't have an issue with like having some level of like gender construct or a performance. I think that a lot of trans people don't also have that issue either. It's just that like what it means to be a woman is not as rigid as the way that conservatives make it seem. Like, it's just not. It's just not as rigid. Let's watch. I have not seen a single fraction, okay, of this video yet. I'm literally watching this for the first time ever. No pre-watching, none of that. All right, let's do it.
Gender studies is not just reduce gender to what psychologists might call individual differences, but rather thinking about gender. And that's not women and man, but gender as a social form, something that kind of infuses itself into virtually all aspects of social life.
Let's talk about that then. I guess we should start with, we've got gender and sex, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two? Is there a difference?
I saw that in your questions and I thought, my goodness, this is what we spend an entire semester kind of thinking through. But what we tend to think about in the social sciences.
God, I hate academia. I'm sorry. I like immediately it's like just fucking, I think everyone in academia, if they're going to do media like this, if they're going to do hostile interviews like this, you have to go through a course where you figure out what the fucking, conservative talking point tree is, and then immediately speak against the talking point tree, okay? Because if you try to like pontificate on this and be like, oh, well, theoretically speaking, we spend an entire semester on this, like, no. He's gonna fucking use that against you.
Today is that sex refers to a set of biological characteristics, and gender is a social construct or category. What I think is often misleading about that characterization is allowed to be sort of...
Wait, what? He did not just cut him describing it. He did not skip. That's cool. He's just fast forwarding through his discussion. He's like, yeah, I don't really care about that because, you're actually describing things.
Messy and complicated. But in that framing, when you split them up into these wholly discrete constructs, studies scholars, and really more specifically people who study gender and sex, we're not talking about sexuality right now. And the kind of academic universe that I travel in is that we see how deeply gendered ideas, cultural ideas about masculinity and femininity, maleness and femaleness, both in humans and in lots of other animals.
So are gender and sex two different things, or?
Well, I think that they both are and they aren't. I'm comfortable saying that gender and sex are two different constructs, but they're deeply intertwined with each other.
We're talking about gender and sex, and there's a lot of controversies there. If we're talking about a trans woman has all of the male physical characteristics, so would that not be a male then? Couldn't we plainly say this person is a male?
Well, I guess it's like, why are you...
This is a perfect representation, by the way, a perfect representation of conservative argumentation. He's not there in good faith. He doesn't need to learn anything. He doesn't want to learn anything. As a matter of fact, he is also cutting you up, like cutting your arguments up in an effort to make sure that no one accidentally learns anything, okay? He literally is like cutting it down to be like, yeah, look at how fucking blah, 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 boring, gay. Okay, bro. Please tell me, what is a woman? I've never been around one. I've chained my wife into the basement. What is a woman? He literally just fucking cut it down, made it seem like he was like being so convoluted and boring, and now is just gonna go back and be like, I was not listening to anything. What's up? This is why you can't take these fucking animals seriously, okay? Matt Walsh is fundamentally no different than a fucking animal in the wild, okay? One note, an animal in the wild is like, I'm hungry, I smell food, I'm gonna go eat it, okay? Matt Walsh, in this circumstance, is literally like, I want to cut propaganda. I fucking despise trans people, and I'm gonna use every opportunity to fucking shit on trans people. How can I do it? I'm gonna go up to this fucking guy and I'm gonna use them like a fucking fleshlight, okay? Like a pocket pussy. That's it. Do not ever take these motherfuckers seriously and try to educate them, okay? That's the difference. There are plenty of people in the wild that get their fucking talking points from idiots like Matt Walsh, who might be misconstrued, who might be misguided, who you can change the opinions of, okay? But Matt Walsh is not one of them. He's not there. Steven Crowder changed my mind. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't ever want his mind changed. People like Matt Walsh are never going to change their minds. They're never going to have an organic and very real come to Jesus moment. They're not going to actually be like, you know what? I never really thought about this. They are trying to feed you the talking points and reinforce the pre-existing transphobia that you already have. Or they're trying to reinforce the pre-existing racist attitudes that you already have. Okay? White supremacist attitudes that you already have. That's it. So you're never going to be able to fucking change their minds. So taking them seriously as though they are good faith actors is a silly bitch notion. And when you do that, like this college professor is doing, all they will do is cut you down, make you into a fucking fool in the editing bay, and then turn around and, use you for their own personal narrative, as is happening currently.
Well, I think that they both are and they aren't. I'm comfortable saying that gender and sex are two different constructs, but they're deeply intertwined with each other.
We're talking about gender and sex, and there's a lot of controversies there. If we're talking about a trans woman has all of the male physical characteristics, so would that not be a male then? Couldn't we plainly say this person is a male?
Well, I guess it's like, why are you asking the question? I think I want to understand sort of why that's so important. So if someone tells
just
you...
to sort of understand reality,
Well, I mean, I think when someone tells you who they are, you should believe them. So if a person says that they're a woman...
Like reality. What do you mean reality, dog? You make it, you tell people that you're not a theocratic fascist, but then you also do tell people that you are a theocratic fascist, like on your fucking social media. So what is the reality? Reality is what you make of it, right? When it comes down to gender, once again, the entire existence, and I'm going to use a term here that's going to be offensive to trans people, so trigger warning, okay? The very existence of traps or people, the very existence of passing implies people are personally, which, by the way, that is a transphobic thing. Transphobic word, don't use it, obviously, because it still comes from a place of like otherizing trans women and claiming that they're not actually women, which is inherent to transphobia. But the very existence of said concepts implies that these people are like, oh shit, they are literally fitting the standards that even I have that is way more fucking rigid than like other people do, okay? That's it. That's what it is. Trans people that are that stealth, trans people that are passing, trans people that are considered, the T word or whatever, right? Are already doing that. They're doing that. And that's what frustrates these motherfuckers. They're like, oh, no, gender is supposed to be rigid. It's like, well, they already shook your fucking reality, dumbass. They already did. They shook your fucking reality. And now you're angry that your reality is shook. You're like, no, this can't be. This can't happen. I hate it. And that's why Matt Walsh unironically came out and basically fucking said, he doesn't believe in gender confirmation surgery for anyone. Like, he thinks that it should not happen at all. Okay?
Woman, or they're a man, then that's them telling you their gender is. I'm not so sure what social interactions would have to do with maleness or femaleness that would be...
I'm not even talking about social context. I'm just trying to start by getting to the truth,
Getting to the truth of what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth. Again, in social...
No, you see, he shouldn't say he's uncomfortable. He should fucking he should retaliate in the situation and be like, what do you mean truth? What is the truth? And then use, and this is a little bit of a trust-scummy argument, but I found it very helpful as an introductory point to like get people comfortable with the idea of not being transphobic, and I have seen demonstrable success in this community as well. But like, that's the reason why I always fucking, I'm not a trans medicalist by any means, but that's the reason why I always use fucking Buck Angel, okay? Here. If you want to understand that gender is completely a fabrication, a expression, a sequence of like markers that you point to, you can look at someone like Buck Angel. Now, obviously, Buck Angel has some controversial takes as well, and we're not going to get into like next level. We're just doing introductory to transphobia right now. So all the trans people in the chat, don't fucking freak out. We're only doing introductory to transphobia. So that's why I'm using this as an example, because it doesn't stop there, but it begins there. Okay, you would never look to someone like this and point to them and go, that's a woman. You just would not do that. Matt Walsh wants to live in a world where he's like, that man needs to use the women's restroom, and that man is actually a woman. Like, he literally is just like, if you were to point to him in a crowded room, right, and go, hey, can you grab my bag? It's next to that bald man. Everyone would understand exactly what you mean. If you were to point to Buck Angel and go, can you get my fucking bag? It's next to that woman. Everyone would look at you like, are you out of your fucking, where is the woman? What are you saying? So the irony itself is that because gender is an expression, and because it's an ongoing thing, right? It's like a thing that you wear every day, but it's become such a normal part of our lives and a normal part of our existence that like, we just don't even comprehend it. Because of that, people like Matt Walsh unironically want to deny the reality in front of their fucking eyes. It is a performance. That's it. It's literally just like, look, Matt Walsh wants to look at this person and go, that's a woman. And he's the fucking weirdo for that take. You understand? Like, that's a weird thing to say. But in Matt Walsh's universe, he's like, no, that's a woman. I don't care. I don't fucking care. That's a woman. And that is not how you do gender. That is not how you do everyday existence. That's not how you exist in polite society. You don't fucking go up to a person who's like, hello, my name is Matt. And you go, nah, actually, your name is not fucking Matt. It's John. I'm going to call you John. You would never do that. Society would fall apart, okay? Everything would break down if you were just like, no, don't care. You're not fucking Matt. You're John. Don't give a shit. Won't do it, right? It just would not work that way. And gender is pretty much the same fucking concept. Is passingness really that important? Why does it have to be so binary? No. Passing is not the end-all be-all of being trans or existing in society, obviously. But passing is a good introductory point for a lot of people who have never thought about it this way. Do you understand? These guys are just scared that being attracted to a trans woman makes them gay. Exactly. No, that's like part of it for sure. That's like a fear. I think that's a very real fear that a lot of these fucking weirdos have, and that's part of it. That's part of the reason why they're like so guided and so motivated. Understand that like Matt Walsh is an insane person for pointing to someone like this and going, that's a woman, and no one would ever fucking feel that that's a woman. No one would ever think that that's a woman. And in normal everyday existence, you don't operate that way. You don't go, hey, let me see your pussy. Do you have a pussy or a dick under there? If someone came up to Buck and was like, do you have a pussy or a dick? What's going on? You got ovaries? What's up? They get fucking rocked. They'd be like, you're a fucking pervert. You know what I mean? You'd be a psycho. But that's what Matt Walsh wants. And that's the degree that conservatives have to go to, especially with like medicine becoming more advanced, especially in this fucking field. That's the reason why in Ohio, Republicans are like, any female high school athlete that someone thinks is trans, you could just go up and be like, that team is dominating us. They have a bunch of trans female athletes. An adult, a doctor has to look at your fucking pussy. And if you have too large of a clitoris, for example, I don't know, you might be intersex. We're going to consider that to be trans. And that's psychotic. That's completely fucking psychotic. That's a real bill in Ohio. These Republican motherfuckers that say we got to make the government smaller are now unironically saying the government needs to put their hands on your fucking like tiny baby daughter's vagina, okay? And that's insane to me. If they want to play high school volleyball, sorry, you got to get fondled by a fucking adult. And it's gruesome too. It is disgusting, but that's the degree that conservatives are willing to go to in order to set up the world in the way that they want to, because they don't care. They ultimately don't care about trans people. They just don't want them to exist. They want trans people to just not exist. They want trans people to fucking go away. We can't have trans girls in girls' rooms. You know what I mean? It's like, well, where do they pee then? Nowhere. They can't pee. I don't care. Because ultimately, it comes down to, I just don't want a trans person in the school. I think it's disgusting and gross, and I don't want them to be in school. That's it. That's what it comes down to. It's like dunking on some of the most marginalized fucking people in America right now.
Why is that uncomfortable?
Because it sounds actually deeply transphobic to me. And if you keep probing, we're going to stop the interview.
If I probe about what the truth is?
You keep invoking the word truth, which is condescending and rude. I'm saying to you...
How is the word truth condescending and rude?
Why don't you tell me what your truth is, and you're walking on 30 seconds more of Thin Ice before I get up.
What my truth is? Well, I don't think I really have a truth. I think that there's just the truth, like the reality. And so we should...
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. A conservative claiming that there is an objective truth. Color me surprised, folks. Okay? No, obviously that's not the case. If that was the fucking case, you wouldn't try to murder trans people, okay? For how they make you feel. Like, oh, my truth is the objective reality, which is why I'm trying to literally continue grabbing on to like the prior understanding of gender as desperately as I possibly could, because holy fuck, my reality is shaking every time I see a sexy ass fucking trans girl and then I find out that they were assigned male at birth. That fucking gets me really, really riled up, which is why I'm a genocidal anti-trans freak now, okay? If that was the fucking case, you wouldn't give a shit.
Begin by trying to figure out what the reality is.
And why are you concerned with when someone else tells you that they're a man, or even if they use the word male, why are you concerned with not believing them?
Well, you keep bringing it back to, how do you respond in a social situation? But,
that's what I do. I'm a social scientist.
Well, right, but we're in a university. This is a place of understanding truth, isn't it? Or
absolutely, we pursue truth, and I'm a social scientist, and that's what I do.
But you just said the truth is transphobic.
That you would say that if you're saying the truth is that I get to say you're not a man, show me your genitalia, that's transphobic.
No, I don't want to see anybody's genitalia. I just mean someone can make a statement about themselves that could be untrue. Like,
yes, that is the case. Except in civilized society, in polite society, the concept of what your gender is a complete fucking expression, okay? And you are a psycho, which is why I go back to this. You want to identify this person, this man, as something but a man. This is a fucking man. Every single person, unless they're like a gigantic fucking transphobic person who like knew prior that Buck Angel was assigned female at birth, right? Every single person would be like, that's a man. Matt Walsh is like, nope, that's not a man, because I found out additional information, and I think that like every part of the expression, every part of like his expression is even fitting the societal standards of what we consider to be a man, okay? Even in our rigorous understanding of gender, which is not the fucking end point, okay? That's just the beginning. And I still don't believe that. I still refuse to admit that. I still refuse to recognize that. He is the one who is being untruthful, okay? He is literally trying to set up a standard where it's like, I need to see your dick and your pussy. Don't care how old you are. Matt Walsh wants to fucking see people's dicks and pussies before he interacts with them, and that is psychotic.
For example, if I were to say that I'm a black man, would you accept that, or would you be skeptical?
Are you black? Are you African American? Are you biracial?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, you don't look that, and I don't think it doesn't sound like that's a genuine statement of who you are.
Okay, so that's my point. I could make a statement about who I am that's incorrect.
Of course, I think it's well established that human beings can lie, yes.
Or not even lie. I mean, I could just be mistaken.
Yeah. I'm not sure where you're going.
I guess this all comes back, it all comes down to really one question. Especially women, gender and sexuality studies. So what is a woman?
Why do you ask that question?
Dude, ask him questions back, dude. Just you got him when you said, what is the truth? It was great. It was awesome. Because he was like, my truth is, okay, what do you want? You want to fucking do pussy inspection day at school? You want to do penis inspection day at school? What extents are you willing to go to? What is a woman? Okay, what is a woman to you?
I just really like to know.
What do you think the answer to that question is?
Well, I'm asking. That's why I came to a college professor who's...
Oh, dude, I'm just asking questions. The documentary. Matt Walsh took literally the most annoying fucking trait of debate perverts on the internet and basically made an entire documentary around it with the express purpose of just like trying to fucking trigger people by being an absolute buffoon. Okay? That's it. That's the starting point. That's the ending point. That's precisely the only thing that's happening here. Holy fucking shit.
This is what you do.
What other kinds of answers have you gotten?
a lot of like this where you're not answering, and I've gotten a lot of that. So
I think it's interesting that you say that.
So that's such a disingenuous fucking argument, because he literally was like, okay, what do you think it is? And he can't even answer it because he doesn't want to answer it, because it is not as easily fucking identifiable, okay? That's it. Because the moment that you say, well, it's a person with chromosomes, you say, do you check people's chromosomes when you actually fucking talk to them? Is that something that you do regularly? Do you ask people if their ovaries are fucking working? Do you think that girls, before they get their first period, are not women? Do you think that older women that have menopause are not women because they're no longer able to fucking reproduce? Why do you think that like reproduction is the only primary capability? Why do you think that reproduction is the most important trait that a woman can have, especially when there are plenty of women that have, for example, genetic disorders and disabilities that render them to not have children, that cause them to not be able to have children? What do you think about intersex women? So like, this is the point. Everything shatters the moment that you turn the question back to people like Matt Walsh. When you turn around and you ask them like, okay, so if you have this like rigid understanding of what it means to be a woman, then explain to me, is this the level of care and detail that you're putting into, and do you find that to be an appropriate way to exist in society? They are going to look like a fucking psychopath. And I'm sure he probably did that if he did. And unfortunately, of course, Matt Walsh has every opportunity to cut that down and make him look silly.
That some of the people you've interviewed have been reluctant to answer it, and I think that has a lot to do with the questions that preceded it, and the way that you've conducted yourself in the interview.
how have I conducted myself?
How do you think you've conducted yourself?
You just really don't want to answer the questions, do you?
I came today very willing and enthusiastic about answering questions about women's and gender sexuality studies, which is
so
the work that I do.
You wanted to answer questions about women's studies, and so shouldn't the first answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman?
Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
But what?
Yeah, like, there you go. Boom. Someone who identifies as a woman. Yes, people can be bad faith, okay? Yes, people can lie. That is a thing that people can do. You know who does it all the time? Conservatives. Maybe we should abolish conservatism from society. If you truly are really fucking triggered at the prospect of someone lying about being a woman when they're not a woman, then the people that we need to fucking throw in prison are conservatives. Because I've never met someone who's like, I'm actually a woman that's not really a fucking woman, but I've met a lot of fucking conservatives who like to do that for an argument, or because they want to make a point, or because they want to fucking go and like deadlift or something at a competition. So fucking yeah, if you believe that people who are lying about their fucking gender, specifically for some kind of gain, should be in prison, then we're locking up every conservative that's ever made that argument, okay? That's it. No one else goes to jail, just the conservatives. I mean, seriously, fucking seriously. I've like, the idea that they are trying to fucking legislate away is not a thing. It's not a real thing. It's not a real person. It's only fucking conservatives that do it, okay? They can't find anyone. They can't find anyone who actually fits this description, so they just make it up themselves. They become that person. It's like Steven Crowder constantly fucking cross-dressing, you know what I mean? He's like, I can't find a trans person that's like being is operating in the way that I want them to operate, so I'm just gonna be that person and make videos about it. You're making fun of someone that like doesn't exist. Can trans people be cringe? Of course they can, okay? Of course they can. Can trans people be hysterical? Of course they can, okay? Everyone can. This is hysterical. Everyone has the capacity to be fucking cringe. Using that against like the entire broad spectrum of trans people is psychotic. To like continue making transphobic arguments is psychotic. Ultimately, if you're talking about someone who is like faking being fucking trans for some kind of gain, it's like, you do HRT then. Go take HRT. Do it. Undergo gender confirmation, and then we'll talk. If you're doing it if it's that easy, if it's a flip like that, dude, do it. What is this? So you said that a woman is whoever identifies as one, but you also said that person is a man based on his photo? Because I'm not a fucking weirdo, dude. Obviously, we make these fucking assumptions, dog. So if someone fucking tells me that they're not, then of course I'm going to change the way that I gender them. I don't make assumptions on what someone's name is, but once they fucking tell me what their name is, I don't go, nah, actually, I'm gonna keep calling you whatever the fuck I was originally.
What are they identifying as?
As a woman.
But what is that?
As a woman.
Do you know what a circular definition is?
I do.
It's sort of like what you're doing right now, where a woman is a woman.
Mm-hmm. Because you're seeking what we would call in my field of work an essentialist definition of gender. I think it sounds like you would like me to give you a set of biological or cultural characteristics that are associated with one gender or the other.
I'm not seeking any type of definition. I'm just seeking a definition.
Yeah, and I gave you one.
Homie said, oh, this is a tautology, right? Like, you're making a circular argument. And then his entire argument is like, well, truths are truths, regardless, because it's the truth. Yeah, okay. Well, what kind of fucking argument are you making about about truth? I always mention this, and it's something that people need to understand, okay? As long as there are plenty of fucking idiots out there, people like Matt Walsh can get away with these idiotic arguments because they're serving the fucking majority. It's the sad reality, but that is how it is, okay? So just remember that. That is the sad, fucking, pathetic existence. The sad, pathetic reality is that as long as there are dumbasses who are just basically reinforcing our preconceived, sometimes antiquated cultural norms that every institution is also, basically fucking reinforcing alongside them. There are plenty of people who are going to agree with the conservatives. I don't know. I mean, the Matt Walsh thing, like, is just perfectly crafted, basically, to trigger as many people as possible. Luckily, it's paywalled, so like it doesn't really matter. I think it like greatly diminishes its reach. I personally refuse to watch it because it's just like a whole bunch of nonsense like that. From what I understand, they also quite literally own themselves, where they like show a shirtless 15-year-old trans boy who by their own definition would mean that you're showing like a shirtless girl, which would make it underage child pornography. So clearly like they don't fit those same, they don't believe in the same definition that they're trying to enforce. You know what I mean? Because if that was the case, if trans men were actually women and trans women were actually men, then showing a shirtless 15-year-old, okay, who got top surgery, a shirtless 15-year-old boy would mean, a trans boy, would mean you're showing a underage girl. So just remember that. Also, it's just really fucking creepy in general.